I always thought love was supposed to feel simple. You meet the right person, you fall in love, and everything else just works out. But life, it's so much messier than the stories we grew up on. My name's Emily, and I still remember that night so clearly. The night I went from one boyfriend's arms to another's, all before the sun came up. That evening started out warm, the kind of warm that wraps around you like a soft blanket. I wore my favorite pale blue sundress, the one that made me feel pretty and free. My hair was still a little damp from my shower, curling around my shoulders in messy waves. Tyler, my sweet and steady boyfriend, had invited me over for a late movie night. He had this way of planning everything down to the smallest detail, my favorite snacks, the softest blanket, my favorite old rom-com queued up and ready. I really did love Tyler. He felt like home. He was the kind of guy who texted me good morning every single day, who would rub my back when I had cramps, who always offered me the last bite of dessert even though I knew he wanted it too. But lately, there was something restless inside me. A quiet, burning feeling I couldn't ignore. And that something or someone was Noah. Noah was the opposite of Tyler. He was messy, impulsive, wild. The kind of guy who'd show up at my window at 2 a.m. asking if I wanted to drive to the beach just to watch the moon. He made me feel reckless and alive, and I hated that I craved it so much. That night, I got to Tyler's around 10. He met me at the door with this sweet, tired smile that always melted me. We curled up on his old couch, his head resting on my lap while he drifted off halfway through the movie. I ran my fingers through his hair, feeling his steady breathing, and for a moment I thought, maybe this is enough. Maybe I didn't need the excitement, the rush. Maybe I just needed someone steady who loved me quietly. Then my phone lit up. It was Noah. Outside. Let's watch the stars. Just us. Midnight adventure. My heart started pounding so loud I felt it in my ears. I looked down at Tyler, his face soft and peaceful, and guilt stabbed through me like a knife. But my feet moved before my mind could catch up. I slid out from under him as carefully as I could, grabbed my purse, and tiptoed to the door. The hallway felt endless. My heels sounded like gunshots on the floor, echoing my shame. When I stepped outside, I saw Noah leaning against his black pickup, looking like trouble dressed in denim and a crooked smile. "Took you long enough," he said, his voice low and teasing. "Just drive," I whispered, my hands shaking. He grinned, and we took off into the night, windows down, music blasting. The air whipped through my hair, and I felt that spark, that dangerous, wild part of me that only Noah could ignite. We drove until the roads turned to gravel, and finally, we stopped near a little lake surrounded by pines. The moonlight reflected on the water, and for a moment, it all felt like a dream. Noah laid out a blanket, and we sat close, our shoulders brushing. He took a sip from a little silver flask and handed it to me. I tasted whiskey and felt it burn down my throat, but I laughed anyway. "Ever think about running away?" he asked, staring up at the stars. "All the time," I admitted before I could stop myself. "With me?" His voice was soft, like he already knew the answer. Instead of answering, I kissed him. I kissed him because I didn't know what else to do. His lips were hot and urgent, tasting like trouble and moonlight. For those few seconds, I forgot everything else. There was no Tyler, no guilt, only me and Noah and the summer air around us. But as soon as I pulled away, the guilt crashed over me, sharp and suffocating. I turned my face, breathing hard, my heart twisting so violently it hurt. "You're thinking about him," Noah said quietly, not even asking. I nodded, my throat tight. He let out a heavy sigh, leaning back. "I always knew you loved him more. I just thought maybe you loved me enough to choose me once." Tears burned my eyes, and I looked away, hugging my knees to my chest. The silence between us felt like an entire lifetime. I checked my phone. It was 3 a.m. "I should go," I whispered, my voice so small I barely recognized it. Noah didn't stop me. He just stood up and helped me up, too. We hugged, and I felt his hands shaking slightly against my back. When he kissed my forehead, I felt every part of my heart shatter. Take care of your heart, Emily, he murmured, his lips still close to my skin. I nodded, unable to speak. The drive back felt like walking through a graveyard of my own choices. Noah didn't say a word, and I was too broken to try. When I got back to Tyler's, I found him sitting on the couch, the TV still playing in the background. He looked up, his eyes red and tired. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I stood frozen, my purse slipping from my fingers to the floor. I needed air, I stammered, but we both knew that wasn't true.
He didn't yell.
He didn't accuse me. He just stood up and pulled me into his arms. I burst into tears, sobbing so hard I thought I might collapse. He held me, his hand stroking my hair, and I could feel his heartbreak in every shaky breath he took. The next morning, Tyler made me coffee and sat across from me at the kitchen table. The silence was heavy, almost sacred. I stared at my mug, my hands wrapped around it, and finally I spoke. "I was with Noah," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know why. I don't know what I was looking for. I felt lost." Tyler didn't interrupt. He didn't look away. "I love you, Tyler. But I don't even know who I am right now," I continued. "I don't know how to love you the way you deserve until I figure myself out." He reached across the table and held my hand. "I love you too, Em. But I want you to be whole. Take the time you need. I'll be okay." I felt something break and heal inside me all at once. Later that day, I packed a bag and left. I didn't go to Noah. I didn't go to anyone. I went to a friend's spare room and cried for 3 days straight. After that, I started therapy. I journaled. I painted late into the night. I walked along the river, watched strangers, listened to the way the world moved without me needing to be everything for everyone. I stopped answering both Tyler's and Noah's calls for a while. I needed to hear my own voice, to find the pieces of me I had buried under expectations and desires. A few months later, I traveled alone to a small coastal town. I watched the sun rise from the shore every morning, my toes buried in the cool sand. There, in that quiet space, I felt myself coming back to life. One afternoon, I called Noah. "Hey," he answered, his voice hesitant. "I just wanted to say thank you," I said softly, "for showing me that part of me. Even if it hurt." There was a pause. "I always wanted you to be happy, Em. Even if it wasn't with me." I felt a tear slip down my cheek. "I know." We said goodbye. For real, this time. Later, I met Tyler at a small coffee shop. He looked so strong and calm, almost glowing. We talked for hours, laughing at old memories, talking about what we'd learned. There was no tension, no unfinished business. Just two people who had loved each other deeply and were finally at peace. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Tyler and I will find our way back to each other one day. Maybe we won't. Maybe someone new will come into my life. But now I finally know that the most important love story is the one I have with myself.